Hi Helen, I have another recipe I want to show you tonight. This is a vegetarian dish. It's a roasted cauliflower gratin, and I think it's really great. Came up on my Facebook post. Somebody, I don't know who, but it's a New York Times recipe. I looked it up, thought it looked pretty good, made it the other night, and decided I'd go ahead and make it again for you tonight. So the first step is going to be to cut up this head of cauliflower. I've got the oven on at 450, which is really high. We're going to roast the cauliflower first in the oven in some olive oil and salt and pepper, and then we're going to remove that from the oven. While that's roasting, we're going to make up a tomato sauce that has some really great seasoning in it. It's going to have some ground coriander, tomatoes, red onions, thyme, and then the cauliflower will get tossed with that, and then there's a really great egg cheese sauce that goes over the top, then it goes back in the oven, and we bake it up a second time. So I'm just going to go ahead and start in on the cauliflower. I usually like to just get all the leaves off. I love to do roasted cauliflower, and a lot of times I just do it with a little salt and pepper. Sometimes I roast cauliflower and Brussels sprouts together, and then I might drizzle a little balsamic vinaigrette on top of that. And sometimes I mix it up with some raisins and some nuts, and that makes a really nice side dish in the winter. But this one I think is really special. It's really rich. It could definitely be a main dish for a vegetarian meal, or it could be used as a side. So what I'm doing is just cutting all the big florets off here, and then I'm going to kind of slice them a bit. So, so they're about, I don't know, maybe a quarter inch to half inch thick. If it's a smaller piece, I usually just cut it in half. And we're going to do the whole head. So maybe it gets 3 cuts. Slicing through like this. So this dish may seem like a little bit of extra effort, especially because you have to roast it and cook it twice, but oh my gosh, it was such a great presentation and really delicious taste. Totally worth the effort, I thought. Okay, here we go, the last bunch. And then I'm just, you know, sort of lazy about all this. I'm just going to take all the cauliflower and put it right in my roasting pan. And then I'm going to, there we go, going to add a little olive oil to it, drizzle that on the pan, and then some salt and pepper. And I'm using a little kosher salt here. And then I'm just going to use my hands, whoop, and kind of toss it around, stir it up, get it mixed in. Not going to be very fussy about it. But when I'm done, and I have everything, you know, pretty well coated with the oil and the salt and pepper, then I'm going to kind of lay it out on the sheet so it's basically one layer. It's really nice and thin. I think you can see pretty well how that's laid out. And then that goes in the oven for 20 minutes. I'll set my timer. And then in the meantime, let me wash my hands. I'm going to put together the ingredients for the sauce. So, I just found a piece of cauliflower. So here are the ingredients we're going to use for this cauliflower casserole. We have 1 head of cauliflower that's going to be roasted in the oven. I have half a red onion, 2 cloves of garlic, some Parmesan cheese grated, about 4 ounces of goat cheese, some thyme. I have coriander that was toasted and then ground, a couple of eggs, a little bit of ground cinnamon, a bit of crushed red pepper, some roasted tomatoes, canned olive oil, and that is about it. So I have a red onion that I've cut in half, and I'm just gonna slice it really thin, like this. So I'm getting just really thin little strips of the onion. And this is going to get sauteed in some olive oil. And then we're going to add the garlic and the tomatoes to this with the other seasoning. The coriander, a little cinnamon, a little red pepper flakes. To tell you the truth, the red pepper flakes was my idea. That wasn't in the recipe. But I thought it could use just a little kick of heat. So that's going to go in. And I'm really just trying to get these as thin as I can because these almost disappear into the sauce. I suppose you could also use a shallot here, but I'm going with the red onion. I'm trying to get the rest of this as thin as I can. Alright, that's enough of that. 2 cloves of garlic. Smash that up. Up the ends. There's the other one. There we go. And this I'm just going to mince. So you might wonder sometimes when I'm using my cutting board and I'm just tossing things seemingly on the floor, but you can see what I actually have here is my pull-out garbage and recycling, and then in the drawers just above I have silverware, cutlery, and my knife drawer. So everything's really handy right here in this one little station. You know me and knives, I like to go nice and slow. I'm never in a hurry. Don't want to cut anything besides the food. And so once I've got it all sliced thin one way, then I'm just going to turn the garlic and I'll give it a cut this way in this direction, and then I just go the other way, and I'll go through it a couple times with my knife and have some nice minced onion to put into the, or garlic to put in the dish. And maybe go through a few more times. There we go. Okay, so that's ready. Okay, so now we're gonna get some heat on the pan, and I'll add a little olive oil, maybe 2 tablespoons. So in the meantime, it's time for a glass of wine. And can't believe I'm cooking without it. So I'm going to add my red onions to the pan. And we're going to give them probably, oh, I don't know, 8 or 10 minutes to cook down a little bit. Alright, so these are starting to soften up a little bit. Give them a stir. Keep them going. So my spice mix that I have here is a 1/4 teaspoon of the ground cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and a 1/2 teaspoon of the coriander, which I took the coriander seeds and just toasted them for a few minutes and then ground them in a spice grinder. So they're nice and fresh and flavorful. That adds a really great flavor to this dish. It's amazing. And that's all going to go in here in a little bit. As soon as these onions are a little cooked down, start to brown a little bit. And then I'm also adding about a tablespoon of fresh thyme. And of course, there'll be some salt and pepper to taste going into this as well. Okay, so these onions are looking pretty good. So now I'm going to add to this my 2 cloves of minced garlic. I'm going to put in a pinch of salt and the thyme. And I'm going to let that just cook a little bit. And brown that garlic a little bit. God, that smells great. It always smells great when you get onions and garlic in the pan. But the fresh thyme, really nice. Along with that. So we'll give that another 30 seconds or so. Some of the onions are really starting to brown up nicely. I like that. Once the garlic gets a little brown on it, I'll add the rest of the ingredients. So what else is going to go in here is, it's supposed to just be, you know, a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes by Roasted or whatever. And I am putting in half of a large can because I used the other half the first time I made this, which was just a couple days ago. So I'm going to add in my tomatoes. And then I'm going to add that spice mix. And that was the red pepper flakes, the toasted coriander seeds ground, and the cinnamon. And then this just gets stirred around. And I'm going to turn this heat down a little bit. And then this is going to simmer for about 15 minutes. I have about 5 minutes left to go on my roasted cauliflower, so I'll check that in a minute. That's going to come out of the oven. Oh gosh, that smells great. And we're just going to let that simmer. Got another 12 minutes. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit more. It's a little bit high. So while I'm waiting for that to simmer, I'm going to go ahead and get the cheese and the eggs mixture ready. So I'm just whisking a couple of eggs together. And then I'm going to add to that about 4 ounces of goat cheese. I'm going to see if I can cut this. I had a hard time with this the other day. Here we go. And I'm basically just going to squeeze all this goat cheese out of the package. Now when I made this the first time, my goat cheese was out on the counter and it was nice and soft and creamy. And it just blended with the eggs. We'll see. Today it hasn't been out as long, so we'll see how it's going to mix. I don't know if it's going to be clumpy or lumpy, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. That's a piece of cauliflower. We don't need that in there. See if I can break this up a little bit. Well, there's my timer on the cauliflower. Looks like that's about ready to come out. You didn't see that, but I just got egg in my face. Okay, oven, I hear you. Oh yeah, no, this is actually whisking up just exactly as it did the other day. Yeah, again, cheese mixture. You can see that's really nice and creamy. So that's going to go on the top of the casserole. We'll just set that aside for the moment. So here's my roasted cauliflower, and it's really just perfect. It's just browning a little bit around the edges. And now I'm going to turn my oven down to 375 because I don't need it as hot to bake the casserole. And now I'm just going to take my cauliflower and I'm just going to put it in this large bowl so I can add the tomato mixture to it. That's just all going to go right in there. That looks great. Oh, that's terrific. Okay, and then we're going to add the tomato mixture. That's cooked down. So you can see this is cooked down so it's kind of like a sauce, but there's no real liquid to it anymore. So that's all going to go in the bowl. And then I'm just going to stir this around to coat the cauliflower. Now, in the recipe, it said that I should somehow grease the dish that I'm going to put it in. But you know, I just forgot that step the first day. And I didn't have any problem with anything sticking, so it's not going to happen. So all the tomato cauliflower mixture is going to just go into the pan. And I'm going to, or the casserole dish, I should say. That's just going to get mixed around this way. And then I'm going to take a rubber spatula because I don't want to miss a bit of this nice goat cheese mixture. And I'm just going to kind of drizzle this over the top. And let it kind of ooze down into the crevices and get all of that yummy creaminess in there. A little bit around the edges. A little bit more over here. There we go. Gosh, doesn't that look great? And then there's one last step, and that is that we're going to add some grated Parmesan to the top. And I'm just going to sprinkle a kind of a liberal dose of that on. And then it's going to go in the oven for about 25 minutes. Okay, so Helen, here is our roasted cauliflower, tomato and goat cheese gratin. Looks wonderful, nicely browned around the edges, bubbling. Let that cool down for a little bit. And I'm just going to have it with a little spinach salad tonight for dinner. Okay, hope you'll try this one and let me know how you think it turned out, if you like it.